Wow, you're on Candy Camera.
Hadn't heard that one in a while. Most people don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I know. What are we talking about today?
Talking about who do you trust? Who do you put your faith in?
Let's read yeah. Hebrews chapter 11. That's the faith chapter. I'm going to start at verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Or is it the evidence of things already seen? Thomas had to see the holes and stick his fingers in the hole before he believed. This says, blessed is the one, or the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the, what thing going on? Yeah, that was confused. That's confused. You believe even though you haven't seen it. We know Christ is coming again. We haven't seen it, but we know it's going to happen. It hasn't been seen yet. We talked about a few of these. We talked about Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Though which he obtained a witness that he was righteous. What was up with Cain? He thought his sacrifice, because he raised it, God's going to be happy with this. He didn't consider what Yahweh thought. I'm going to do it my way. And then by faith, Enoch was taken away, so he did not see death, and was not found because God had taken him. He was so close to Yahweh that he didn't even have to stay on this earth. Yahweh just took him up. What's the reason? He had faith in Yahweh, that he existed. He had a relationship. You tell a person in the world, well, I speak to God. God talks to me. What? Are you crazy? he is so real to us that it's almost like another personal friendship. But people in the world just can't see it. So James is going to tell you about the dream he had, and then you'll get a deeper understanding of what it is to live by faith.
Yeah, we was talking about faith and trust. Those words are pretty much interchangeable. You can't have one without the other. They're together. If you have faith, you trust. If you have trust, you faith. But anyway, I was having some problems trying to decide the direction to go on some things in my life, and all that day I had been thinking about them, trying to figure it out. So that night I had a dream. Now, most people dismiss their dreams as nothing more than, as nothing more than a dream. It's like a vapor that comes with sleep and then it vanishes upon your waking, and it does so without real meaning or purpose. But the Bible tells us that sometimes dreams are messages from God, and they should not be dismissed so quickly. So in this dream, I dreamed that I was driving a van, and it was very dark outside, and suddenly I lose control of the van, and it starts to spin in circles, going around and around, faster and faster, and everything is a blur, and it's so dark outside that the rapid spinning of the van makes everything melt into all the darkness that's there. But I can't see, even though it's so dark, these huge boulders all around the van that I think I'm going to crash into at any time and wreck. So in a panic, I start wrestling the steering wheel. I'm trying to control this van to get it to straighten out and that I can take control of it. But it just keeps on spinning and it keeps on bumping into these huge boulders. But then finally the van stops spinning and straightens out. But it's still speeding, still going very fast, racing at a great speed into all this darkness. And finally, by sheer strength, I gain control of the steering wheel again. But that's not better. It's actually worse, because I only think I'm in control of the van. For I realize that I am facing forward, looking to where I want to go, and the van is going backwards. So I'm going this way, facing it, and the van's going that way, and I can't see what's behind me. I don't know what's coming up towards me. And I try to turn my head, but I can't see anything. So I can only see that which is in front of me. I know that which is behind me that's coming fast at me, that's what's going to wreck the van and likely kill me. But then suddenly, as I'm panicking, a calm and steady voice says to me, "Do you trust me?" And I answered, "Yes." And the calm voice says, "Let go." So I release my death grip on that steering wheel, and the van slows down, the road smooths out, and all the darkness disappears, and the panic goes away. And that's when I woke up from this dream.
Was King trying to keep his hands on the wheel?
He was trying to fighten that steering wheel to get control.
What's wrong with this sacrifice? I raised this myself.
Yeah,
I worked hard raising these crops.
I think we all go through that at some point in our life where we feel like we don't have control of what's going on in our lives, and we fight to get control of it.
We need to have control when we're really not in control.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we do, we're not going to take control of
So,
it.
who needs to be in control? If we take our hands off the wheel and just submit to his leadership.
The Lord says, "Let go. I'll get you through this."
Right. We have to be totally submitted to his will. We have to be controlled by the person of the Holy Spirit as to guide every step of the way. If we're not walking in unity with the Holy Spirit, we can't accomplish anything. People will see right through that, the things that we're doing out of our own flesh. It's not going to work. But people have this ego. You know, it's like, I'm in control. I got this under control. I'm a man. I'm gonna pull up my bootstraps and I'm gonna figure this out myself. Don't work that way.
No.
That's the worldly way. You know, people are brought up, I was brought up this way. My father told me work hard, you know, get a job, work hard, and make money. And that's what's going to bring you happiness and enjoy your life. That is a worldly destination, a worldly outlook. That's not a godly outlook. That's not walking with Yahweh. But that's all he knew. He didn't know any better. He's just trying to raise me the best he could, as a father wants to do. But if a father doesn't know Yahweh, how can he impute this knowledge to his son, to daughters? It's just like, well, my pastor yesterday was saying that when you really walking with Yahweh, you have your head over your family. But there may be, okay, let's say your child is in public school. It's not bad, it's okay, they're getting an education, but maybe a private school is better. Do we really want the best for our family, or are we just going to settle for mediocrity? Are we taking the time to teach them the principles of the Bible? Do they see us praying? Do they see us following the person of the Holy Spirit in everything we do? Or are we showing them that, well, I'm in control of this? So, are we going to settle for mediocrity? You let our kids go to school and they're teaching your kids, you know, it's okay to, you really need it. If you decide you want to be a woman, you can be a woman. You know, it's up to you. You know, Yahweh's the one that decides that when you're born. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be the leader of the family, so you need to be in unison with the Holy Spirit. And that involves what? Trust. If you trust, you'll let your hands off the wheel. You'll take your hands off the wheel.
And it's not easy.
Was that a lot of fun fighting against that?
No, it leaves you in a panic.
Panic mode.
You don't have that feeling that you're going to gain control of it. And even if you do get control of it, what's going on around you is still going to be just as confusing and chaotic. So until you let go, until you trust in the Lord.
So how was the road after you let go of the wheel?
It's smoothed out, it's straight.
So I'm just thinking, because I went to Lord seminar Saturday, and it was the people there were so healthy, so health conscious. All this stress and chaotic stuff because we're trying to be in control. I wonder what kind of effects that has on our health.
Yeah.
You know, the stress of trying to do things your way.
Stress will bring you down.
And I'm listening to some CDs on the proper way to keep the Sabbath. And one of the proper ways to keep the Sabbath is to make sure you get everything done during those 6 days, so that 7th day you can just sit there and be calm. You know you got everything done. Don't wait till, don't put a bunch of things off and just sit around and be lazy. And then when the Sabbath comes, you're worried about all the stuff you didn't do instead of resting on the Sabbath.
Preparation.
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to work those other 6 days. That's part of the commandment. He says in 6 days do all your work and rest on the Sabbath. So you want to get something done those 6 days so you can rest on the Sabbath. You're thinking ahead to the Sabbath so you can be, you know you'll be able to rest. You get those things out of the way. You pay the bills, whatever you got to do during the week, those 6 days, and then you can, that's faith. Putting your money in the plate takes faith. He says will give you so much blessing you won't have enough room to contain it. Now, do you believe that or not?
That's the trust.
Do you believe what it says in here or not? This is his word. This is Yahweh's word. So trust, faith, the evidence of things not seen, not seen.
Yeah, when it's like when the Israelites were in the desert for the 40 years wandering around, on Friday they were told, when they were eating the manna, they were told to get double portions of the manna. That way they would be prepared when the Sabbath day comes. They wouldn't have to be out running around trying to gather up the food for the day. So it's about being prepared and knowing that you're going to do that on the Sabbath. You're not going to go out and try to do everything once the Sabbath gets here, but be ready so that you can take that rest that you deserve. Let your spirit, your body renew itself that day so you're prepared for the next week. Even the Sabbath is a day of preparation because you're preparing for the week that's coming. So
I had a friend right before the Sabbath, he'd be running all over the place trying to get things done. Right at the very eve of the Sabbath. This is crazy. I gotta buy this. I gotta get kerosene. I gotta blah, 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 blah. I said, man, So, what is it we're trying to convey? Well, let's talk about the Israelites in the wilderness. Why did they have to die off? Why couldn't they come into the new land?
Because they were trying to go back. It's like I was talking about in the dream in the van. You can't have your sights set here when you're wanting to go that way. So that's what they did. They weren't trusting in the Lord to get them to the promised land. All they saw was out here in all this heat and the desert, nothing. There's no water to drink. There's no food to eat. They didn't like the manna. So they were looking back to Egypt. We want to go back. They didn't trust in the Lord. So he said, all right, you won't enter into the promised land. And they wandered for 40 years until that whole generation died off. And they never got to go.
Well, let me ask you, weren't there enough graves in Egypt?
Yeah.
Do you believe they said that to Yahweh and Moses? You're going to let us die out here? Weren't there enough graves in Egypt? Now, is that a statement of faith?
I think that's fighting that steering wheel. Trying to keep that grip on it.
Yeah, and you know, faith, you're walking by faith. They saw all the miracles in Egypt that were done to get them out. And they're in the wilderness, there's nothing to eat in the wilderness. And God provides us manna. They got something to eat in the wilderness, and then they complain about it. To me, that is just...
Well, they had everything else going for them. When they had no water, God provided the water for them. And then he had a cloud above them to guide them in the day, to keep the sun off of them, and at night he had a fire to guide them, and he was providing everything for them, and they still didn't trust him to get them out of the desert.
So there's no faith there.
No faith.
So they die off. They don't get to see the promised land.
Can't
Land of
trust
milk
in
and
the
honey.
Lord.
You're not going to see the promised land if you don't trust in the Lord. But we got a promised land that's coming. It's going to be nicer than that one.
Much.
You know what I mean? All them gates of pearl. Man. So we got till 20 after. You got anything that's heavy you want?
No.
Saw this dream.
Yeah, when that vision ended, and the last thing was when I heard that voice, that calm voice say, "Do you trust me?" You hear that voice, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how upsetting, how painful, how terrible it seems, remember that, because the Lord is asking, do you trust me? And then just let go of it, and he will take that steering wheel and get you out of it. That's what happens when we trust in the Lord. So we all need to remember that always, because we're all going to come up on times in our life when we feel like the whole world is crashing in on us. And he'll get you out of it if you let go of the steering wheel and don't fight and keep a death grip. Because that's what it is, a death grip. You don't trust him and you're hanging
That's
on.
going to be the result.
It's a death grip.
And now on your way to that death, it's just chaotic. It's just, you don't have no peace. The road's not smooth. The van's spinning around and boulders are in the way.
Darkness.
Yeah, I know.
It's all
How can you have any peace? Something came up in my memory when you were talking. I went to I had to go to Cleveland to my relatives, and then I had to pick up my father's lawnmower. But anyway, at the last minute I decided to take a pistol and put it in the tool drawer in my van. I said, well, you never know, somebody's going to try to attack you or whatever. But it was a last minute decision. I didn't really think about it. And I went to Cleveland, then I had to go back to Pennsylvania to my father, where my father lived. and I got this trailer and everything. And as I'm going near where my dad lives, but I was heading to a friend's house where I was gonna stay. They allowed me to stay there. This cop turns his lights on behind me. I'm almost, it was getting late, I've been driving. But anyway, he stops me, he's looking. He sees the trailer's got no lights, trailer got no license plate. You don't need to tag him in Kentucky. He's like, what? You don't need to tag him? I said, why? You don't need to, you can look it up. He said, no lights, no chains. And then he's walking all around. He must have not had nothing much to do. And he goes around, oh, look at all the cracks in the windshield. And all this. He's looking at me like I'm some kind of hick or something. This is kind of upper class neighborhood around where I'm at. So he's going through all this stuff. And then he even calls another officer over, and he comes by and says, you see what's wrong with this? You know, he's throwing it, and chains and all that. And then he just looks me in the eye and he goes, do you have a weapon in this van? And this brought about the moment of decision. Am I going to trust Yahweh and tell him the truth? Or am I going to try to lie? I said, Yahweh's got me through everything before. He says not to break the commandments. I said, sir, yes, sir, I have a pistol. He said, you go ahead in there and get it then. I got it out. He said, take the knife out. I took it out. He says, okay. He says, you've been cooperative, everything I asked you to do and everything. I'm going to give you the gun back. He says, but I just want you, I'm advising you to go directly to where you got to go. But really, I'd rather you drop off the trailer and then go. Because parking lot pick up later. He says, another cop might not be as nice as I am. But it was my faith. I mean, that could have been a heavy, I don't know, I might have to do some jail, I don't know, in another state. And so anyway, that's an example. We're going to stop here. I want you to ponder and think about this. Walk by faith and trust in Yahweh. God bless y'all.